can you help your constituents?
Helping the constituents, that's the reason why I'm running for office. As I said, I've been a leader since I was 14 years old, developing people, training them, coaching them. I think what we're missing now in politics is talking about leadership, talking about principles. I've already shared with you about principles, so I'm not going to go there, but it's really important that elected officials, leaders talk about principles, personal responsibility, self-sufficiency, entrepreneurship, freedom, opportunity, the best government, the government closest to the people, fiscal responsibility, can't spend money you don't have. Those things are really critical, and regulations. But seeing how I've talked about that, I want to go into something else that politicians don't talk about and leaders don't talk about, and that is key institutions. And when I say key institutions, it's institutions that we should honor and respect and promote and celebrate. Example, one is individual. Everybody is an individual that has personal responsibility to understand what their strengths and skills and gifts are, and it's up to you to be successful in your life, not somebody else, not the government.
Absolutely.
So that's individualism. The next thing is family. Mm-hmm. Family is an institution. We learn, that's where our role models come from. That's where we learn our first values and principles. Those are our first leaders, our mother, our father, our grandfather, our grandmother, maybe uncles, aunts. That's where we learn from our family. So we talked about individualism, talked about family. The next thing is religious institutions. The Bible, we talk about the Bible, we and our pastor preaches, because we learn so many lessons from centuries of what is good and what's not so good. And so our religious institution is another institution that we need to honor and celebrate and support. Another one is schools, educational institutions. That's where we learn how to read, write, do math, get along with people. We don't honor and support them. We should be doing more of that. And another institution is community. It could be our subdivision, our neighborhood, our apartment complex, but we don't understand that community is so important. And the institutions, community institutions that support our community are very important. And then last but not least, well actually there's one more that I'll mention.
Okay.
And that is small business.
Right.
That's where part-time jobs come from, internships, small business. And small business makes up the bulk of the economy in our nation. Mm-hmm. Also, what's important is that's where all the new jobs come from small business. Mm-hmm. And so we need to honor and celebrate entrepreneurship and free enterprise. The other thing, and the last thing, is government. Local government and federal government. And what's happened is we start turning to the federal government and to local government for the solutions and for the answers, when in fact we should be turning to ourselves and looking at what we can do as individuals, what we can do as families, the church, to nonprofits, to families, what we can do to solve the problems and challenges that we face. That's what we need to talk about. Elected officials don't talk about principles, they don't talk about key institutions, and we should do that.
Okay, perfect.
Now, I do have a story, and I'll do this really quickly.
Okay.
In terms of community, remember I said that my mother moved from the projects into a house. House was very nice. It had a front lawn, nice backyard, had a 2-car garage. Mm-hmm. In the house we had a nice living room, dining room, nice kitchen, 3 bedrooms at the top, enclosed porch. Mm-hmm. And everything was fine because we had our first house. But something happened. My mother fell down the steps and she couldn't work. We had crackers and water. And then the crackers ran out. We didn't eat for 2 days. And on the 3rd day, I'm trying to figure out what are we going to do. My mother's acting like nothing's wrong. But I'm sitting outside my steps thinking about what I'm going to do. Typically somebody that's about 11 years old is thinking about playing football or basketball and having fun.
Right.
I'm thinking about how I'm going to eat. Fortunately, I was on the steps, and then my next door neighbors, called Miss Bess, she had 3 grandsons, Floyd, Tony, and Terry. And 2 of the older boys had paper routes. And so they were coming back because she always would help them on the weekends with the papers. So they basically make breakfast for them, and then they would eat, and then they go do it. This time, as they were going past, they waved at me and said, "Hey, how you doing?" Didn't want to say I hadn't eaten in 2 days, third day. But when they parked, they said, Kenny. That's what they called me back then. But I left Detroit, I became a man. I'm now Ken, not Kenny.
Not
All
Ken.
right, no.
Okay.
So they said, Ken, come on over. Okay. And so they fed me. We had pancakes and sausage, sage sausage, and nice pancakes, $silver pancakes with nice maple and alligator syrup, which is a different kind of syrup. And I ate.
Delicious.
Yeah. Now, I didn't tell them I hadn't eaten. But Tony said, "Hey, why don't you help me on the paper route and I'll pay you." Now, I'm saying to myself, I would have did this for free because y'all just fed me. But I said, okay. And so after the paper route, he gave me $20.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I took that $20, and what do you think I did? I went home. I said, "Mom, what do you want from the store?" She said, "Where'd you get the money?" I said, "I helped Tony his paper route." And we made a list. And I start walking to the store, and then it hit me. I said, wow, I don't have to work, I don't have to depend on my mother to make money. I can make my own money. And that's when the light came on. I need to have my own business. So I helped Tony on his route for the next week. But then he asked me a very important question. And that question was, why don't you get your own paper route? And I came back and said, hey, my mother doesn't want me to get a paper route. Because I asked her, Mom, I want to get a paper route. She said no. Because they robbed paper boys in Detroit, and unfortunately one of my friends was killed. So what do you think Tony said when I said I can't do it? He said, you got to make that money. I said, yeah, you're right. So against the wishes of my mother, went down to the paper distribution center, and I talked to the manager, and I said, hey, I would like to get a paper route. And initially he was trying to ignore me, trying to blow me off, but I wasn't leaving because I saw an opportunity. And he saw I wasn't leaving. And I said, I'd like to get a paper route. He said, well, we don't have no paper routes. I still didn't leave. He said, okay, well, we got this one route. You don't want it. He's trying to discourage me. It's one street, all apartments, 3, 4, 5 stories. Some had elevators, some didn't. He said, paperboys quit, you don't want this. I said, no, I'll take it because I saw an opportunity. And I took the route. It was 40 subscribers, and I worked it very, very hard. And I built that to be the biggest route in my neighborhood distribution center. I had over 100, 150, 200 subscribers during the week, and on the weekends I had 350 plus. And so I was making money. I learned how to ask for the sale, how to get new subscribers. I know how to make change. Even when sometimes it was hard to try to collect the money, I would do my route, and on Fridays and Saturdays, I would go back at night and knock on the door. That's how I get my money. That's how I built the route. I was winning, making all kinds of money. I was buying groceries for my mother, and we were eating again. And I had so much confidence. That was my first business. I learned how to market, how to distribute, how to sell, and I was hiring little boys to show how to do it. So, and I will tell you, to wrap up the story, my mother kind of figured out that I had a paper route. Because she saw I had a red wagon, which I couldn't use anymore. I had shopping carts. And she said, I thought I told you not to get a paper route. And I said, Mom, we need the money. She smiled and she went in the house. But that's the reason why I'm an executive coach today, where I teach people how to sell, how to make money, how to utilize the web, how to close new business, is because behind every business owner, entrepreneur, is a wife, husband, father, kids, sometimes grandkids, maybe nieces and nephews. That's where the magic happens. If I can show people how to make a sale, how to be a better leader, better communicator, how to run the business properly, that's my why. That's the reason why I'm a coach today.
So in other words, it's going back in the community,
right,
and then helping each other,
right,
to build leaders so they can have their own businesses.
And that's where the part-time jobs, internships. I didn't have one. We didn't have many businesses in our community, so I had to create one. Fortunately, we had paper routes. Nowadays, I don't know what kids do nowadays. But if you look back, that's why key institutions in the community are so important. If I hadn't had my love for my mother, I could have just say, okay, I'm just going to starve to death, I guess, or find some way to make money. But I love my mother, and family's important. My mother's important to me, so I'm going to support my mother.
Absolutely.
And then you look back on Miss Bess, who said, come on over and feed me. That's community.
Right.
Yeah. And then if it wasn't that small business distributing papers, that's a small business. So if you think about it, we're ignoring and we're not celebrating key institutions. And when we don't do that, we can't be successful, either individually or as a community or as a family. So that's so very important. And we need to talk about those things. We need to talk about leadership. We need to talk about opportunity. We need to talk about the Bible principles. And if we're not doing that, we're not winning. And that's what I can bring to the table. That's what I bring to constituents. We have too many, I call them spectators and residents. We need them to be more. We need to be better citizens and patriots, and we need communities to step up and rise up, and small business owners to step up and rise up and do, and make a difference in their community.